everybody, happy Monday evening. Welcome into Before the Hedges right here on Dog Nation, presented by Kroger. I'm Hannah Chalker alongside UGA recruiting reporter Jeff Sintel. We have Michael Shalaba, our producer, behind the glass. Before we start our official show, I want to say a big congratulations to the former UGA stars, all 6 of them that got drafted in the 2018 NFL Draft. Jeff, what did you think about this year?
Well, I guess if Georgia football wanted to come at the world with its best possible recruiting spinoff or pitch out of the NFL draft on the NFL's biggest stage, 3 Bulldogs picked in the first round, first time ever that's happened. And I think most people don't realize how important recruiting is. Lots of recruits, lots of college players watch the draft, but it is an example about how a certain program, this program or that program, can get you there to the next level in your dream. So that's the thing. Georgia is now pretty stout when it comes to the NFL draft stuff.
And Roquan Smith, first round.
First round.
That was impressive.
And then the Patriots are, they're trying to corner the market on Bulldogs. Now, I know, Hannah, you're a big-time Falcons fan, but I mean, I bet a lot of Georgia Bulldogs are going to be curious. Cleveland Browns with Nick Chubb and all those guys versus the New England Patriots, or the Chicago Bears with Roquan and Leonard Floyd. I want to know.
Giants with Lorenzo.
There's going to be some divided loyalties when the NFL games come up.
And it's going to be fun, too. Maybe people pick up some more NFL teams that they're following because of the UGA guys.
It's going to be interesting. And I know a lot of people are already buying a lot of Patriots gear. And some Georgia fans tell me on the message board that they're going to have to root for the Patriots now, doggone it, because literally, doggone it.
It's not going to happen. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. We're going to get into the show now. We have a lot coming up for you today, a lot to cover in the next 30 minutes, including 5-star linebacker Owen Pappoe makes his commitment tomorrow. And we'll have the coverage on our sister site, SEC Country. What will he mean to UGA if he commits to the Dogs? Jeff's going to break it down. We also have an updated offer list. We have a new name to add to the 2019 and 2020 classes. UGA picks up a transfer, defensive end Jay Hayes from Notre Dame. We're going to talk about that. And a new status update on defensive tackle Tramel Walthour. We have that and much more coming up in today's show. But first, I want to say thanks to our sponsor, Kroger. Don't forget the Kroger Click List app. You can download that or check out your local Kroger near you. Stock up for sneezes and sniffles. Allergies are in season, and Kroger healthcare professionals can help you find relief in store. Kroger Pharmacies, welcome to ACHU HQ. For any of you suffering from allergies, head on over to your local Kroger and join us tomorrow evening beginning at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time for live coverage of the Grayson 4 commitments from the Battery Atlanta. It's all broadcasting on our sister site, SEC Country's Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. It'll all be there. And the most important name of those 4, of course, the nation's #1 linebacker, that's Owen Pappoe. What would it mean to the Dogs if he committed to the G tomorrow? What are the chances?
First of all, I gotta give you props. That's a 5-star sponsor read right there. Did you guys get that? ACHU HQ, sneezes and sniffles. I mean, that is some. You're showing out, lady. That is some good stuff right there. Everybody give Hannah a big hand. That's some good stuff. That guy's name.
Pappoe, yeah,
Owen
that guy that we may or may not talk about.
I think I tweeted out that Vegas, if there was such a thing, has placed the over-under on how many times we're going to use the name Owen Pappoe in this show at right about 11. And I think that somehow feels right. I can't promise anything about the comment section because that's going to be overblown with the comment section. First things first, the decision comes tomorrow. Owen Pappoe, nation's #1 offensive line, outside linebacker, Grayson High School, picked up his first offers way back in June. Picked up his Georgia offer way back in June of 2015. 6 feet, about 212 pounds, 210 pounds. 3-time opening participant. Both classes. I mean, he took some official visits recently. I do think it comes down to Georgia and Auburn. And you hear a lot of things here at the 11th hour about which way he could possibly go.
Pappoe was looked at by a lot of major schools early on. Why is his commitment so important?
Well, it seems you kind of think he's the nation's #1 outside linebacker. He's that instant impact guy, tremendously athletic, fast. He gets off blocks well. He uses his hands well. Great instincts, physical. He's played at the highest levels of Georgia football. He's a 3-time opening participant. which is staggering to think about there. I think Owen might end up being the only 3-time participant in the history of the opening, because they just don't invite a whole lot of rising juniors to that event. But Owen, the decision's going to come with the Grayson 4, and everybody's already sitting there thinking about how he fits into Georgia, how he fits into Auburn, and we'll just jump into that right now.
He's recently taken visits to Texas, LSU, most recently Penn State, though. That was during Georgia's G-Day. Are any of those schools still a big factor in his recruitment?
I think those were just trips he got to take in order to show the world, like, hey, you get these 5 official visits, why not? He did take some more unofficial visits on the down low over the last 3 or 4 weeks to Georgia and Auburn. I do think that what you're looking at here is a clear Georgia Auburn decision. Tennessee is probably his 3rd school right now, not how much that matters at all, but that's one because of his ranking and how much the name has been talked about that a lot of fans are going to pay attention to tomorrow. It's
rumored that Auburn's UGA's biggest threat to get Owen Pappoe is, I know we've talked about that quite a bit on the show, are the Tigers still a pretty big threat? I know we had Justin Sisk just comment in the comment section that one of the Grayson teammates committed there, so is Auburn still in play? Very much in play. I think Auburn, depending on your sources you talk to, Auburn is really maybe even the team to beat now. Georgia is right there in as well. Everybody wonders if there's some sort of trickeration or hocus pocus around the event to kind of drum up the decision. I know this, I've spoken to recruits that tell me that they think that Owen will show up, will end up committing to Georgia, and I've spoken to recruits that tell me that they think Owen will end up committing to Auburn. So I don't know if it's 50-50, maybe it's 51-49. I know everybody likes to follow those crystal ball picks. The one thing I do think will happen now, my personal thought is I think maybe Owen's a little bit fatigued and ready to be over with this recruiting process. And I actually, my own personal opinion here, I think the decision he arrives at on Tuesday, on May the 1st, I think that will eventually be his final decision. You mentioned, obviously, these schools want him because he's the nation #1 linebacker. What else would he bring to UGA? What is so key about Owen Pappoe? Well, I just think he is a measure or a max lift that shows Georgia is really recruiting like nobody else, like gangbusters, like wildfire. I think the thing with Owen is I think the easiest and cleanest way for Georgia to have a class that rivals the 2018 class, another nation's #1 class, is you got to have Owen Pappoe in that. And I think Owen Pappoe is the type of guy that's going to send a lot of ripple effects. I think guys like Andrew Booth, I think Travon Walker, I think other players, you can go on to Warren Burrell, DJ Turner. I think that will be a signal that Georgia is still the place to be, and it will be much than what took place in 2018, where Georgia seemed to be getting all the in-state guys. I want to counsel a couple of things now. Georgia is going to have Channing Tindall and Quay Walker on campus, and everybody likes to drop the fact that this kid could be the next Roquan Smith, and maybe he can be. But everybody, if we point back to Roquan, splendid Roquan Smith, his freshman year at Georgia didn't play much at all, especially till the last few games. And really, Natchez Patrick was a freshman linebacker that got more early key reps compared to Roquan Smith. One more question for you, and then we're going to go over to the comment section and talk about Pappoe a little bit more. Which school needs him most? Which class would he make the most impact in? Well, that's a great question. I like that one a lot, Hannah, because there are 2 things to think about there. And, to give fair and equal time here, I think Auburn, the one thing Auburn offers him that Georgia cannot, is Auburn offers him maybe a chance to get away a little bit away from home instead of 40 minutes away or 41 minutes away from where he's at in Loganville and Grayson High School. And I think it also gives him more of an immediate need. I think when Owen Pappoe, if he were to commit to Auburn tomorrow, he would become the crown jewel of Auburn's class. Travis Williams, you can't say his name enough for how big of an impact he would make. But I think he's a guy that could really play really fast at Auburn because they're turning over their linebacker spot for the 2019 season. Huge. But I just kind of remember, though, Georgia has recruited so well at inside linebacker. Monty Rice is there. Channing Tindall is there. Quay Walker is there. Lots of options right there. And Owen Pappoe is a splendid special linebacker, but I don't see him coming in and starting his freshman year at Georgia unless he walks on water once he enrolls early in January of 2019. Jeff, we're getting a lot of questions about what time he will commit. Our coverage starts live at 5:30. A few of the Grayson 4 will start committing around 5:45. And I believe Owen Pappoe is set for around more like 6:30, 6:40, right?
Yeah, it might be something like that. That's kind of
it all changes.
It's kind of an ebb and flow. It's not really on some sort of script or shot clock or whatever. I can promise you this, Hannah, and I can promise everybody out there in viewer Facebook live stream land that one thing is not going to happen is there's not going to be a Christmas or holiday pageant in the middle of that thing. And people are wondering, you know, some people that follow Georgia recruiting know full well about the Isaiah Wilson story. A couple Decembers back, he committed to Georgia over Michigan and Alabama in the middle of a Christmas pageant. Well, there will be nothing kind of circus mastery about that. You're just going to go through 4 big, huge commitments for Grayson in 2019. And you got to admire the way the program's going about it here, as they want to get these guys to be locked in before spring practice starts, before their senior season starts, so they can focus on chasing a ring, but also be very comfortable where they're at heading into their last offseason, last summer conditioning before their final senior season.
Okay, here's the most important question. Where do you think he's going to go? Some people think you're leaning Auburn after you answered my Auburn question.
I think I'm just going to let Owen make his decision tomorrow and let everybody react to that. I think one of the things ethically I like to do is I don't get in the crystal ball business. I don't like to say this kid is going there, this kid is going there. I kind of try to toe the line there, just being an objective reporter as much as I can without, sometimes you hear things and sometimes some things are shared with you in confidence that give you a way to lean on a certain aspect. But to me, I'm not going to betray those confidences and let some of that information out.
Anything else on Owen Pappoe before we move on?
It's pretty stinking good. And I mean, he's gonna make somebody very happy. Somebody's going to be some double back flips and fist pumps. And what is it? The line from a movie. There's going to be hearts breaking worldwide over Auburn and Lee County or Clark County or the state of Georgia tomorrow night, because that young man is going to be a bona fide gem in somebody's recruiting class.
People are torn. I'm seeing some people that think he's AU bound. I don't know. You know best. And if you're not making a prediction, then I don't have anything to say.
Sometimes it's best to just let this thing wait it out. I will double down on something I said earlier. I think the decision he makes tomorrow, I think that will ultimately be his final decision.
They also think you know something. They think you're holding back on the crystal ball.
I don't do crystal balls, but props to everybody out there who does and wants to get their information out there, but that's kind of not my thing.
All right, don't forget, that is tomorrow, 5:30, our coverage from the Battery Atlanta will be live on our sister site, SEC Country. Coverage begins at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the commitments of the Grayson 4. That's Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all on SEC Country. If you have not liked them on any of those social media sites, head on over. And Dog Nation, of course, is on Twitter. We're streaming on Twitter right now, Facebook and YouTube. So that is going on tomorrow. Mark it on your calendars. We also have more things to mark on our calendars. Well, we have a new updated commitment list for 2019 and 2020, but we're going to get to the 2019 commitment list first. The number moves up to 8 from 7 this week. That's because of a new addition, 4-star inside linebacker Tresman Marshall. Jeff, UGA cannot stop cleaning up at the linebacker position.
In-state guy, down south Georgia boy, or let me just say DSGB. That is a special hashtag or acronym to a lot of folks in the state of Georgia. Homerville, Georgia, a place where they do not have very good cell service at all. I mean, this is a land where 1 or 2 bars of cell feels like a 3rd and 33 you just completed. Chauncey Minot came out there, and it's funny, Tresman has been feeling that sort of way about Georgia. Basically, ever since Chauncey Minot was at Georgia, he transferred out, went to a junior college route. But Tresman is a guy 6 feet, 235 pounds, moved Georgia up to number 5 nationally in the recruiting rankings. With his addition, he's another top 100 player. He's played some quarterback, he's played some running back for Clinch County. He makes his decision, and he'd actually been silently committed for a few weeks prior to his decision on Friday. But Mr. Marshall, one of those classic downhill thumpers at inside linebacker. He actually told me he wants to play both ways at Georgia, play some running back on the side a little bit in the I formation as a tailback if that's possible. But he kind of fits more that inside linebacker mold where maybe as Owen Pappoe would be a special, unique guy, a little undersized but great chase, great reactive guy. It seems more like the Alabama model of inside linebacker there. But Trezman Marshall, great get for the University of Georgia, one of those priority targets. And everybody that follows Before the Hedges knows the magic number was 3. Georgia needed to sign 3 inside linebackers in 2019.
I think we actually have the entire list of the 2019 commitments. That's 8. Will Trezman shut it down, or how solid of a commitment is he?
Well, Trezman says he's solid, and he likes everything there is to see about Georgia, but he's still going to take his 5 visits.
Okay.
He's going to take his official visits. I think Florida State's going to get one. I think Clemson and Alabama is going to get one. Georgia's going to get one. Trezman's going to take his visits, and you can't blame a guy, especially from a really small town in South Georgia. He's actually won 2 state championships with the Devils coming out there at Clinch County, hoping to make a 3rd, and he really wants to win a national championship for Georgia as well. He's used to winning, and I know Dog Nation Before the Hedges fans will love to see this. The Georgia recruiting class is getting so big, we had to go to 2 screens now.
Page number 2.
You got to have that page down button. Nolan Smith, and you know what? That doesn't look lonely at all, because you're talking about a top 5 prospect right there. Him along with Jaden Hazelwood, I think will be the crown jewels and the marquee guys in this class of 2019, and they've been committed for over a year now.
All right, let's jump ahead to 2020. Offensive tackle Broderick Jones has also committed to the G, and you have a funny story on Big Silly Jones, they call him, Jeff?
Yeah, Broderick, you got to like this kid. He's about 6'6", he's about 300 pounds now, and Big Silly, you're going to love this. The first time he met Sam Pittman, he just comes up to him and gives him a big old hug and says, "What's up, man?" And starts loving on Sam Pittman, and then Sam Pittman goes, "What's up, big baby?" And another great side road story about Mr. Broderick Big Silly Jones. You see him right there. He was probably, I'm going to say it, the best JV football player in the state of Georgia last year. And you're like, Jeff, man, why is this kid playing JV football? Well, he loves playing tight end, and he was being cross-trained and getting an orientation experiment, if you will, to play tight end for Lithonia. So 2 quarters on Thursday nights, he would play tight end, and then he would play 4 quarters on Friday nights at both tight end, offensive tackle, and defensive end. He also had 9 sacks and 24 tackles for losses. Broderick Jones is a guy that looks like, to me, the future of the offensive tackle position for the Georgia Bulldogs.
I have a question for you about Trezman from Tom Lavelle. Did he move up his announcement due to Pappoe announcing tomorrow?
I think those are unrelated.
Okay. Awesome. Let's see if we have any other comments while we check in. Quick update on Gibbs.
D'Angelo Gibbs, you just got to wait on him. He's going to go through. Remember, he's recovering from surgery. He's got to do everything. He's got to do everything necessary. I know everybody's wondering about where was D'Angelo. Did they see him enough at spring practice? Did they see him at the G-Day game? Where's D'Angelo? I think everybody should just sit tight and wait on that Gibbs situation to resolve itself. I still think you got to have a lot of faith in this young man that he will eventually make big plays for the Bulldogs going forward.
Okay, going back to Broderick Jones for just a second, you said that he had an old school commitment. What was so old school about his commitment?
No, I don't think this will ever happen again, Hannah. I mean, this is one of those situations where, aliens could fly out of a coach's head, and I would be less surprised than the thing that was going on with Big Silly. I'm sitting there talking to him in his office. I'm just doing my reporter rounds. I try to, get out on the road and see as many people as I can. And I'm talking to Broderick Jones, and he's like, "Well, I've made my verbal commitment to Georgia, but I'm not sure when I might sign, and it won't be official until I sign." He says, "I'm not sure about my signing date yet." And I was like, hold on a second, rewind. That's my funny sound effect voice. But he's like, "Yeah, he's committed." And I looked around and I said, "Did he just say committed?" And then the coach is like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're the first one to ask, are you committed anywhere? Have you committed anywhere?" And he said, "Yeah, we committed about 2 months ago. And he's like, "Reporters have came out, they've talked to him," and he's like, "No." They say, "Who do you like? Who are your favorites? Who's hitting you up the most? Where do you see yourself at?" Yada, yada, yada. But the commitment story came out, and he'd actually been committed for about 2 months. He committed first to Sam Pittman, and then he committed second to Kirby Smart. And both gentlemen, when he heard that Broderick Jones wanted to be a Bulldog, which was his first offer, they were basically speechless. One of the coaches at Lithonia said Sam Pittman left a voicemail that said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you."
Wow.
And one of them was like, "I've never seen Sam Pittman never be able to be speechless before." But he was speechless after he heard that Broderick Jones wanted to be a Bulldog.
I like Big Silly Jones in 2020.
What would it be like? Hannah Big Silly Chalker? Or what about Hannah Achu HQ?
HQ. Hey, speaking of Achu HQ, you are watching Before the Hedges right here on Dog Nation, presented by Kroger. Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Kroger. Download the Kroger ClickList app and head on over to your local Kroger because it is the season of allergies. Stock up for sneezes and sniffles. Allergies are in season and Kroger healthcare professionals can help you find relief in store. Kroger pharmacies, welcome to Achu HQ. And Jeff was involved in a really cool thing today, Kroger's 2018 ALS Golf Challenge. Heard Jeff shot like a 110 on the golf course today, but that's okay because it was all for a good cause. Erroneous.
First of all, I gotta just props to this shirt. Kroger does a great thing. This is their 19th. Let me get that one more time. Kroger, this is their 19th annual ALS Golf Challenge. They do so much work to defeat Lou Gehrig's disease. Great program. Kroger is a great corporate citizen when it comes to that. We actually played four-man scramble, and your erroneous intel, I would like to correct and run a correction on that right now. Led by a very strong team, we actually shot 60, 12 under. I think we ended up like 7th or 8th place, but a really good time was had by all. You had to play golf today as part of a work environment, so yeah, I'm not expecting anybody to really feel sorry for me at all. It was a great thing. I love that event. Second time playing in that, and Kroger takes care of a lot of people at that event. It's a really wonderful, world-class event.
We did find out I have a better handicap than Jeff before the show, but that's here nor there. That's just Jeff Sintel. I'm Hannah Chalker. We have more names to add to this continuing list of recruiting. It just never stops. And here's one for you. This is something that Brandon Adams has been talking about all week, or the week before too, on his show, Dog Nation Daily in the mornings. UGA picks up defensive end Jay Hayes, transfer from Notre Dame. He was also committed to OU at some point. What is Jay Hayes going to bring to the team in the fall? Why did UGA need him?
Well, first of all, if we're talking about an instant impact player, he's a plug and play defensive tackle. He's got one more year left. Very mature dude. He came out of the class of 2012, spent 4 years, I think a redshirt season as well at Notre Dame. Had 1 year of eligibility left as a graduate transfer, and he was committed to Oklahoma for a ways. And then when he went to G-Day, got acclimated with Georgia and the needs. Really liked everything at Georgia. If you research his recruiting and you go back to when he was a high school prospect, he was really feeling Georgia, really was interested and intrigued by the Georgia program. No doubt he got to see Georgia play for the Dog Nation invasion. So really, when he plays for Georgia against Austin Peay and the Governors in September, that will be his second time that he has played a home game, been in a home game against the University of Georgia, because everybody remembers that game up there in South Bend last year was basically a home game for the University of Georgia as well.
Jordy Mathis wants to know, why did he leave Notre Dame?
I think he just, it's really simple. Like sometimes you sit there and you go, you're pursuing your graduate degree, and maybe the degree, this is the NCAA kind of corporate speak on that, but like the degree that you want to pursue as a graduate is not available at your current institution, and you're allowed to transfer and be immediately eligible when you want to go somewhere else. And that's a chance for him to maybe play on another squad, see another side of it. And a lot of people think, okay, was he playing? Was he expected to contribute? I believe Jay Hayes started every game last year for Notre Dame. Going to be a big contributor for Georgia, especially on first and second down. Going to replace a lot of those reps, I bet, that Trenton Thompson had for the Bulldogs last year. And huge player, good player. I think he had a career-high 7 tackles against Georgia in that game last year in South Bend. So great impact player. I know everybody wants to see some muscle and some impact from the defensive tackle position. Just another example of Kirby recruiting year-round and always massaging and manipulating that roster. Georgia got basically a grown man. I think he's 23, 24 years old, something like that, 22, 23 years old. But Georgia basically got a grown man to play defensive tackle for one season, so that helps out the scholarship stuff there, instead of a wet behind the ears freshman, 18, 19 years old, coming out of the prospect phase.
Is this just normal business for Kirby Smart? Are we going to see more of this?
I think he does it every year. If you look at him, and he's picked up guys like J.R. Reed, he's picked up guys like he's picked up guys like Mo Smith. Georgia continues. Everybody can say David Marvin, Akila Crumpton. Georgia finds a way to add an impact summer transfer, summer signee, summer addition to the program every year, and you see a lot of comings and goings with the program, which we're going to get into in a second. But people come in and people come out, and this is just another example of what's happening right now at Georgia.
And why was this move recruit friendly?
Well, because the best way to look at that is it's just a 1-year scholarship. Like Jay Hayes will be on the program, he'll be on the scholarship tally for 1 year, and then they can also use that defensive tackle needs for a scholarship in 2019. I just think it makes a lot of sense because you're getting a guy that's expected to play. It's already played a lot of big-time ball in a lot of big-time environments. Not going to need a learning curve at all, not going to babysit him at all, just going to plug him in and play.
Okay, it's not all cherry on top for Georgia this week. We do have some bad news to report as well. Offensive tackle Patrick Allen and linebacker Jaleel LeGuins have announced their intentions to transfer out. Were they just recruited out of the program, Jeff?
Well, there's a term called processing. I know lots of Alabama fans know exactly what that means. You bring in these #1 recruiting classes, and the guys that were there before that aren't playing by their sophomore, junior seasons, they kind of see the handwriting on the wall, and if they want to continue their college ball career and want to play some more college football before they hang it up, the best place for them to go is to find another level. Might be a different team, might be a Division II school. In these cases with LeGuins and Allen, I think those guys could play at the FCS level immediately. They could also play Division I football as well, but I don't think it's going to be at Georgia. Just an example where good players were at Georgia, all these recruiting classes that come in, #3 nationally, #1 nationally, those guys are going to play right away, and it is kind of what I'd love to hear what everybody thinks about this, but it's kind of just a big business of college football recruiting is when guys aren't playing and they're around their 2nd or 3rd year, just usually happens. It's happened quite a lot at Alabama. Now it's happening at Georgia.
Okay, and what about 2018 gray shirt? What about a gray shirt for defensive tackle Tramel Walthour? What is that? Why would that be possible? Do you see Tramel Walthour actually getting some playing time for the Dogs?
Well, I see him showing up now. It sounds like there's a 24/7 Sports report actually that has Tramel Walthour delaying his enrollment until next January, kind of a lot like what Devontae Wyatt did in the 2017 class and rolling over to the 2018 class. Tramel's a 3-star defensive tackle. Obviously, that's a position of need for 2019. And you look at him now, and he's going to be a guy that could potentially show up in January and not be a part of this fall roster. I know the numbers are very tight for the University of Georgia. If you want to look at it as a cause and effect relationship, what you have there is Jay Hayes is coming in. Tramel Walthour is also there. Is he fully qualified yet? What's he doing there with the grades? Might be the best possible way to benefit both parties here, both the student athlete and the program, is to maybe delay enrollment until January of 2019. That's what happens in the gray shirt situation a lot. Again, there's numerous examples of what happens at Alabama. Lots of gray shirts happen. Lots of guys end up going on and having great careers. Bradley Bozeman's a great example. Another guy that came out of the gray shirt process, and he was a key cog and a valued starter on a national championship team last year.
All right, one more quick topic to cover before we get to your questions and comments. I've tried to paste a couple over here to the left that we're going to get to in just a second. But last tidbit, Tom Crean lands his very first commitment today for the Georgia men's basketball team in Ty Fagan. Just your quick thoughts on that and the status of the men's basketball program.
Well, I think Ty becomes the first commitment in the Tom Crean era, so that's something to hang your hat on right there. 3-star guard. I think they won 64 straight games at Upson Lee High School in Thomaston, Georgia, but I know all those Brandon Adams out of the world are going to sit there and go, A plus B equals C. Ty Fagan, who's played basketball with Travon Walker, the 5-star defensive tackle prospect now, maybe another reason for Travon to think about the University of Georgia with his former basketball teammate would be there. I don't think that's directly related. I think that's just a big win, a terrific point guard. He rates as a 3-star point guard. Used to winning, used to playing at a high level, and now he's going to be a part of the Georgia Bulldogs. And everybody remembers one of the huge voids for Georgia in the 2018 hoops class was a point guard, and they've definitely got a good one in Mr. Fagan.
All right, it's a recruiting show. Might as well touch on Tom Crean's very first recruitment. Okay, time for some questions and comments here on Before the Hedges. That's Justin Till. I'm Hannah Chalker. Thank you for watching Before the Hedges each and every Monday with us. It's always a good time. Marshall Fleming wants to know, who do you think will be the 3rd receiver that we will sign in this class?
I actually don't know if the 3rd receiver is a possibility. I think Georgia might sign 22 or 23 guys. Could go down to 21 depending on early departures from the program or also early departures to the NFL. We're watching whether they get that third ideal guy. Of course, there's candidates out there, lots of candidates. A couple of those guys were at G-Day. Some weren't at G-Day, but it might be an example where Georgia, if they want to stock up, do they get another offensive tackle? They get 2 offensive tackles. Do they get 3 inside linebackers? Do they get 2 outside linebackers, 2 safeties, 2 corners? I think they got to make the numbers work there. I think they will sign 1 quarterback. Recent quarterback offer, Joey Yellen, tells me that the program has told him they only plan to take 1 quarterback in 2019. I also think it's probably a matter of maybe there's an athlete position available for the class in 2019. What's going to happen with Tramel Walthor? Does he become part of the 2019 class as well? Lots of variables up in the air right now to consider, but I don't know if wide receiver, considering Jaden Hazelwood and Dominic Blaylock are already in the fold, how important that third receiver is, especially when it's not a 5-star receiver like Frank Ladson Jr.
If you guys have asked a question that we have not answered, go ahead and put it back to the top right now. John William Adams wants to know, what kind of impact does Pappoe have on other recruits' choices? That's a good question.
Yeah, and a lot of people think these are causal relationships where, like Andrew Booth is a great example. I think he's one of the top 5 recruits on anybody's board or any fan's board about the biggest priorities it gets for the class of 2019. And he's told me matter-of-factly that it doesn't matter where these guys go. I think internally, if Andrew saw Pappoe, if he saw Travon Walker, if he saw Warren Burrell, guys like that, Colby Wooden, his teammate at Archer High School, go to Georgia, I think that might help the cause. But I think it's not going to move the needle one way or the other. I think a lot of these guys will just notice Georgia signing a bunch of dudes, which they've done for the past 2 or 3 years, and it will just add a strength to Georgia's kind of pros and cons elements in their own individual respective decisions. And really, I don't think any high school prospect wants to admit, because they're a proud player in their own right, that somebody else going somewhere is going to be what turns the tide in their decision.
All right, I've got 3 more questions for you. Jordy Mathis asks, Jeff, does the fact that Walthauer is getting a gray shirt indicate that they think Jordan Davis is the better of the 2 for this year?
I think Jordan Davis is a different type of defensive tackle. He's about 6'6", he's about 325. Massive block of granite. I think if anybody's seen Avengers Infinity War yet, he looks like that Thanos in the middle of the defensive line, or a potential Thanos down the road. But Jordan's a guy that just fits Georgia's needs. They need a big zero technique to kind of replace what John Atkins does. I think Tramel Walthor is more of that 6'3", 80-pound defensive tackle. Is going to have to grow into the position a little bit. I think it's a matter of, I remember when our Dog Nation reporter Chip Towers was visiting with Tramel Walthor a while back, and he was still getting all of his tests lined up. I think it's a matter of him just working within the boundaries, which happens all the time, working within the boundaries of the qualification process, January, February, March, April of a prospect's senior year, in order to get qualified with both the score and the GPA on the sliding scale.
Bobby Piper asks, what are the chances with the offensive tackle out of Rhode Island?
Oh, Rhode Island, Xavier Truss. Well, good question, and I think Xavier's a guy that's going to give Georgia an official visit, and I think things are getting better for both Xavier Truss and Darnell White when you look at University of Georgia. It's kind of a causal effect relationship there, because Alabama's picked up Pierce Quick, Alabama's picked up Amari Kite yesterday, 2 of their huge targets at offensive tackle. They've also taken another commitment from an offensive tackle in the class of 2019, and that might cause Darnell White, that might give him pause to look elsewhere. That's the big tackle as well out of West Virginia. Xavier Truss is a huge dude, 6'7.5", 350 pounds. Good question there, and I know Xavier really likes Georgia. Had a great junior day back in February. I think they'll be one of the contenders for Xavier Truss down the line. And I'm wondering if we got any questions yet about, is anybody asking to say "Achu HQ" again or anything like that?
No one's asking. But I will say it one more time before the show.
That was a 5-star read. Let's make sure that's
Just trying to make Kroger proud.
Very good job.
Okay, last question and comment. 2 names for you. What is the chances of UGA offering Tyler Fromm? And also someone's asking, what about Jalen Phillips?
Ooh, Jalen Phillips. Well, he has a Georgia offer. Jalen Phillips was at G-Day. Another one of those versatile defensive backs, could play safety, could also play cornerback, can do a little bit of everything. Jalen Phillips is going to definitely consider Georgia. He put them in his top 8 schools. Georgia offered him within the last month. So I think Jalen's a guy Georgia's going to have to think about, and it's kind of complicated defensive backboard now. Lewis Sine is there, Andrew Booth is there. Everybody wonders this new kid, Shiloh Sanders, that's Deion Sanders' young son. Where does he fit into all this? What about the North Gwinnett three? What about both Andrew Booth and Jalen Phillips? I think the DB board's kind of fluid right now, especially after remember a big news week is Kyle Hamilton committed to Notre Dame last week. That's how much news was breaking left and right last week. A big news week, definitely in the last week of April for the Georgia Bulldogs as well. So I think that DB board, they have who they want, and then they have who they'd like to get as well. And going to be interested to see how all that shakes out.
They're pulling my leg. One more question. QB KJ Jefferson.
Not going to Georgia.
Okay.
I spoke to KG Jefferson, and it basically.
Did I say KG?
KJ. KJ. Well, KG, that's kind of like Kevin Garnett or something like that. But Jefferson's a guy that he told me kind of matter-of-factly is like, I want to play right away. And he goes, Jake Fromm plus Justin Fields equals not playing right away. So he's looking closest at the schools that give him the opportunity to play early and play often.
Okay. If you're just joining us, you're going to want to just rewind once we get off air here because we have covered a lot. And if we haven't covered them, we'll be here next Monday.
We've been down with OPP, right? The Owen Pappoe process.
Yep.
And that's a good nod to 90s hip hop and Naughty by Nature. But Owen Pappoe, I know everybody wants to read and view and hear and everything else that. Go to the front of the show. We had it all top loaded with everything you wanted to know about OPP on Tuesday. And
we will have his commitment live broadcasted on SEC Country tomorrow, starting at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's for the Grayson 4 commitments. Live from the Battery, Atlanta. It's all broadcasting on our sister site, SEC Country's Facebook page, YouTube page, and Twitter. You're not going to want to miss it. Some of the Grayson 4 are going around 5:30. Owen Pappoe might go around 6:30. You never know with these guys, so you're going to want to stay tuned. Are you going to be there?
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
Okay.
No doubt.
What are you going to be doing?
Covering, taking pictures, blogging, tweeting.
Kissing babies?
Instagramming.
Taking pictures?
Maybe having some chicken wings a little bit later. Definitely not going to have any sneezes or sniffles because of Kroger's
Achoo HQ.
There you have it.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching Before the Hedges right here on Dog Nation presented by Kroger. Monday's always so much fun. Make sure you go follow Dog Nation on Facebook. We are streaming live on Twitter right now, Instagram, and don't forget, we are also on podcast, wherever you get podcasts, SoundCloud, iPod, Android, whichever you prefer. We are there too, and you can take us on the go. So excited about that.
Oh. Old school flip phone? Were we on old school flip phones? I don't think so.
If you have an old school flip phone, you might not get us.
Might not get us.
But you can get on your computer.
That's
you have
right.
one. All right, guys. Jeff Sintel, I'm Hannah Chalker. We will see you next Monday right back here, Dog Nation, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.